I don't think, I'm going to pause it here. All right, so welcome to Halloween 2013. For whatever reason, we always end up doing this on Halloween. I think we did last year too. Our first speaker is going to be George Swint, and he's going to be talking about Karst. So George, it is all yours.
Okay, just waiting for my PowerPoint to fire up.
Okay, no problem.
All right, so what I'm going to touch on today is alternative standards in the Karst region and bedrock removal in the Karst region. So it's kind of specific to the southeast, but it's good information for everybody to have. Anyway, so first of all, for those that aren't from the southeast, what are the alternative standards? Well, they were developed in the year 2000 by a work group convened by the legislature. It wasn't led by MPCA. It was just private individuals, consultants. MPCA was merely just a note taker and the meeting minute taker. It created recommendations for liquid manure storage areas in the Karst region that were different than the rule. It was a fresh take. It didn't even look at the rule at all. It was kind of just as its own thing, what would work for building LMSAs in the Karst region. Well, since 2000, that never ever got incorporated into the rule. And to our knowledge, this is the first, we've had a couple of projects now that have proposed to use these alternative standards to build the LMSA. And as far as we know, this is the first time MPCA has been asked to implement these alternative standards. So the standards themselves have some features that are more restrictive than the rule and some that are less. A couple of the major conflicts with 70-20 are separation of bedrock. Our rule requires a different separation based on liner types and size of the facility. For most sites that we're dealing with, it's commonly 10 feet. If you have a concrete liner underlain by cohesive soil. The alternative standard just varies at liner type. It doesn't look at the size of the structure at all, just what type of liner are you installing. And for those same CFOs, typically you're looking at a 5-foot separation. Now, the alternative standard goes as far to say there could be no separation of bedrock if they were to install a certain type of liner. So there's one conflict there. The other conflict is volume restrictions. Our rule requires a volume restriction of 250,000 gallons per cell when you have 4 sinkholes within 1,000 feet of the structure. The alternative standard just says no cell should be more than 3 million gallons at all, no matter where it's at in the Karst region. So those are the two big conflicts between the alternative standards and the rule. So up until this point, how have we implemented the alternative standards? Well, like I said, this is the first time MPCA has been asked to act on them specifically, but I believe some counties have been asked to act on the alternative standards already. In 2001, in response to the work group standards, the MPCA commissioner at the time drafted a letter to the legislature saying that we can allow alternatives to our rules via the SDS permit, provided the alternatives provide equivalent protection of the environment. So what we kind of interpreted that to mean is staff assumed that the alternative standards could be allowed through an SDS permit, and in some cases even without a permit if they're equivalent to the rule. In our rule revision process we're undergoing right now, we thought about kind of cleaning up the rule, and this discussion came up with one of the Attorney General's office staff about these alternative standards and their reservation with us implementing the alternative standards that were not in rule. So we dove into the sonar for the portion of the rule that deals with new technology, which is what we require an SDS permit. You can see the citation up there, and it talks about what can be allowed underneath a new technology provision within the rule. And this sonar says that you cannot vary things like setback distances, shoreland, floodplain, proximity to sinkholes, and separation distance to bedrock via the SDS permit. So it's very clear that, no, we can't do this, implement the alternative standard fully when there's a major conflict with some locational restrictions And two of the big ones here were proximity to sinkholes and separation distance to bedrock. So what does that mean from now and into the future? So if a project that's out there wants to deviate from the locational restrictions of Minnesota Rule 7020 by following the alternative standards, again, we're looking at volume restriction and bedrock separation, a variance from the feedlot rules is required. Now, this is not a variance acted on by county boards or anything. It's to be acted on by the MPCA. So what that means is if a county would get a proposal to apply the alternative standards and they want to deviate from the rule requirements, it would have to be forwarded onto the MPCA for processing. Now, with the variance, there's quite a large fee for even applying for a variance. The fee would be in excess of $10,000 just to apply, with no guarantee it's going to be granted, and of course it's non-refundable. The variance process is pretty arduous. It's pretty tough to get a variance from the feedlot rules. I don't think we've ever granted one. I think we may have one official application way back when. The variance can be granted on two grounds. One is it's not technologically feasible to comply with the rule, or the second would be it's too costly to comply with the rule. Now, the first one is not technologically feasible. Would have to be there's no way to engineer a structure to work in that location. So let's say you want to put a liquid storage area in a sinkhole plain in the southeast. That would be the only solution to the problem. It's going to be a hard case to make that argument because you could always put a barn up over the roof, over an open lot if you had open lot runoff problems. So you have to be no other way to comply. The economics one is a little more, I don't know if it's easier or not. I don't know if anybody could really say it's too costly to comply with the rule, but that is an option as well. So if anybody wants to use the alternative standards out there in a county project, it might not be a bad thing just to give Paul down in Rochester or myself a call and just say what they're doing and make sure it can be done via the rule. So that's the alternative standard implementation. One item that arises out of that is the idea of bedrock removal. So the MPCA has received a couple proposals to remove bedrock. Now that would be extensive removal and replacement with soil. So if the separation distance required is 5 feet, let's use that as an example, and the bedrock is within that zone, the idea would be to excavate out of the bedrock, fill it with 5 feet of soil, and call it your separation distance. So it's, in effect, artificially creating a separation distance. Now in practice, I mean, we do borings for every liquid storage area, but you may not find all occurrences of bedrock in borings, so it may come up unexpectedly during excavation. Now we realize that's going to happen, and we want to be flexible and not say, oh, wait a minute, stop the whole project. We got to now get this a different permit or get a variance for the rule or something like that. So what we've proposed is to continue to allow limited removal of bedrock, kind of the unexpected occurrences, or if it's a small area they want to take out. And then extensive removal of bedrock would be done by a permit underneath a new technology provision of 7020, so need an SDS permit. You may ask what bedrock removal looks like. Most of you have seen some of these pictures. So this is the idea, is take out this rock they encounter, remove it with a simple excavator, peel it up. Some of it comes up pretty easily. And this is kind of what it looks like when you got the rock out of there. You can see this right side of the photo. The upper right corner is where all the rocks have been removed. Get a nice spot they swept off real nice, the people are standing on. And then towards the left, they kind of run on the rock. That's what bedrock removal would look like. So our current rule, we believe the intent of that current rule was to establish a separation distance to the bedrock from liquid storage areas and leave it alone. Don't mess with the bedrock. Even though there's no specific mention of bedrock removal, we believe the current rule prohibits removal of bedrock. So in our revision process, we are looking at clarifying the intent of the rule. So like I talked about before, we realize there's going to be situations where you run into it during construction. or there's going to be a case where it comes up in one little corner of the basin. And in those situations, I don't believe there's much concern with removing some of that bedrock. Now, there is no magic number I can give you that says if it's less than 10% of the basin area, go ahead and take it out. We're going to kind of handle it on a case-by-case basis. And if somebody wants to take out a large amount of rock, so they want to take out 5 feet of rock across the entire footprint of the basin, that's something that needs to come to the MPCA and evaluated extensively and most likely require an SDS permit to allow that. Now, the rule revision process does have some criteria in it that we're going to evaluate these proposals under. So there are 6 criteria that are going to be proposed for the rule, which will hopefully be finalized in the near future. And here they are. So we look at the geologic sensitivity of the proposed location, the type and extent of bedrock to be removed, length of time the manure or other waste is stored or processed, how likelihood of discharge to waters is given the design standards are proposed, and looking at the volume that would be stored there. Type of material proposed to be stored and its pollutant concentration. So we look at, is it strong waste, liquid manure waste, or is it maybe a runoff for a feed storage area that would be lower concentration? And then we'd ask for what other options have you considered that would allow compliance with the separation distance to bedrock? Is it as simple as sliding it 50, 80 feet one direction, or making the footprint a little larger so the bottom can come up? Things like that. So what might something like this look like? Like I said, we believe that you can allow this practice to continue for limited removal. So this might be a corner of a basin where you hit the rock a little bit in the corner and you take out maybe the top foot of really weathered bedrock. That, we believe, is an acceptable practice. Now, if they want to do that across the entire footprint of the basin, well, there may be some other issues that we want to look at. Or if they want to take out a large amount with, let's say, jackhammers or breaker bars or even dynamite in some cases, I guess, that would require some extensive permit conditions and a thorough evaluation by the MPCA. This picture came from Winona County from Mark Gurnis. This might be something that we would consider even in the future, hopefully allowing CFOs to approve without talking to MPCA, but as of right now, it's kind of a case-by-case situation. You can see here they ran into a little rock in the corner of the basin and took out a couple feet just in that one corner, kind of digging into the hillside. This would be a good example of limited bedrock removal. So what does this mean for CFOs and plan approval? As of right now, until the rule is finalized, any removal of bedrock needs MPCA approval. So if you got somebody that's planning to take out rock as part of a project, make sure you forward those plans and specs over to the MPCA. And if they run into it during construction, give us a phone call so we can come out and take a look at it. I'm more than willing to drive to Rochester area and check out rock removal. Hopefully in the future, once the rules are finally finalized, we're going to develop some guidelines that would allow CFOs to approve limited amounts of removal of bedrock without having to call us each time. So we come up with some criteria. They have to meet A, B, C, maybe D criteria before you could approve it. But like I said, as of right now, it's coming to the MPCA regardless. So what's the takeaway message from this? If you want to implement the alternative standard and vary locational restrictions, you need a variance from the rules, and that needs to come to the MPCA for review. If you're looking at bedrock removal, as of today, that needs to come and have MPCA approval as well. Hopefully in the future we'll get some guidelines developed once the rules finalized that will allow CFOs to go ahead and make that approval without talking to us. But that's the presentation for today, and we can take questions if there's questions.
Is there any questions out there? Hey, George, are there any other places in the state where there might be, you know, that proximity to bedrock other than, I mean, I know it's most common in the southeast. We have a little bit of it in Pine County, which is an undelegated county. Is there any other places where they might encounter that?
No. You may encounter bedrock in the southwest part of the state, say like Rock County. We have a couple proposals to build right on top of bedrock down there. The only bedrock that's protected in the rule is that's susceptible to karst formation. So it includes your certain sandstones and your limestone bedrock. So it's going to be southeast, and there's a little pocket of it in Pine County as well in sandstone.
Okay. We had a question come in on chat from Doug. He said, what separation distance will be required on the approved removal of limited bedrock?
It'd be the same that's in the rule. So let's say they do some test pits and they want to put the basin in, and the proposal is to take out 5 feet of rock to make a 5-foot separation distance. They can take out 5 feet, 6 feet. I mean, an engineer and an excavator will tell you to take out as much as they want. Just can they afford to take it out? So it'd still establish the same separation distance that would be in the rule. There's no varying that separation distance. If the rule says you got to have a 5-foot separation distance, then you got to take out enough rock to make the 5 feet of separation, and replace it with soil, not sand, not crumbled up rock, soil. So that would be the same as the rule requires. It's just artificially creating that separation distance is the name of the game.
All right, are there any other questions out there? Well, thank you, George. I really appreciate this information.
Yeah, no problem.
Well done. So the next part of our Webex today, George, I'm going to take the ball from you. All right, so we're going to there's some new resources the University of Minnesota has published. Richard made me aware of these, and I thought they'd be good to take just a little bit of time to look at these. And I thought they were really interesting, probably because I'm dealing with a site that's had a lot of controversy in regards to air emissions and complaints, and I think most of us could probably relate to air and odor complaints in the work we do, just because that's, our job stinks sometimes. Sorry. My humor is a little dry. I'm a little tired, so I apologize if I'm a little corny today. So I am going to play a video, and then we're going to take a little time and have any optimal discussion. So get ready to be excited and have some, maybe we can get some good discussion developing off of this and on ways that we've addressed these kind of situations in the past. So we're going to utilize some YouTube today. Hopefully everybody can see this well. Hopefully my computer cooperates and I don't freak out the network.
Looks like you're freaking out the network.
Looks like I'm freaking out the network. Well, give me 1 second. We'll try this one more time. All right. I also will share these with you, so if there's anybody that you'd like to pass these on to, any producer groups that you want to read this. Let's make sure we have some volume. Seriously. All our new security stuff is very, very wonderful. Are you kidding me?
We have no volume. Please try again later. Oh, we might not be able to do this at all.
Come on. Let's just try. Let's try one more time. Because I think these are very valuable, and I think there'd be a good. If it doesn't work, then I guess we have a short Webex today. Let's try to unmute this first.
You have to have a password. It's ridiculous.
Will you go ask?
No, you still can't.
This is not acceptable. All right, I'm going to just do something I'm going to pause it